Why is nobody talking about how autistically coded a bunch of the boys are in the Netflix show Adolescence? I say this as a former special education teacher, special education advocate. A lot of those boys are autistically coded. And no, I'm not trying to just code regular adolescent behaviors as some disability label. I'm just telling you from my wealth of experience that as I'm watching this, I'm like, I've worked with boys that fell down that manosphere, red pill, incel culture pipeline, various stages and intensities along that pipeline. And it is like, yeah, really, 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 really brilliant kids who turn to the worst concepts about themselves, about women, about girls, about their peers. So if you're a special education teacher or a paraprofessional administrator or even the parent of an autistic boy and some of this is resonating for you, I'm right there with y'all. Like it is a very hard watch. It really is.
Hi, Kate. Here's the thing. Listening and reading, like reading the captions, is really important because one, I never attribute violence against women to mental health or even developmental disability such as autism. In the video where you comment this, you are missing what I'm saying entirely, which is the fact that I have seen autistic boys be vulnerable to the radicalization that is the manosphere, red pill, incel culture. It is not mental health. It is because of our autistic boys being socially isolated and being often very literal thinkers. So they're trying to find spaces where they belong. That makes them very vulnerable to the radicalization that is red pilling, misogyny, violence against women, that kind of culture. It is very important to have our listening ears and our reading eyes on to those of us that have those capacities right now and not read into things like this, because this is like you just disregarding all critical thinking. Okay. And it's really important that we can have the conversation about how disproportionately autistic incel culture is because of the factors that I'm bringing up. I'm not excusing away the behavior, but if we don't understand the why underneath a population falling prey to all of the stuff that preys upon them, we're never going to be able to get to what do we do about it. We could just scream, respect women, raise boys in consent culture until we're blue in the face. And guess what? When you have a developmental disability, all that stuff bypasses you sometimes, and we need a different approach. Okay, so it makes me so upset when people really, one, don't know what they're talking about, because I'm not talking about mental health. I'm talking about developmental disability. And two, think that I'm excusing away the behavior or explaining it away, but I'm not. Have a good day.
My professional perspective, what do I think the psychologist in Adolescence would have written about him in a report? Someone else has commented under your comments some really interesting points, but they're talking about something a little bit different. What this particular person does, this particular psychologist, she is not working for the mental health service. She is not working for social services. She is working for the defense team. She is paid by his family in order to help the barrister build a defense. And there was more than one psychologist that did this. Often a defense barrister will get a couple of analyses because everybody sees things slightly differently, and the prosecution will also have him assessed by a couple of people. And she said it quite clearly. What she was trying to do was understand his understanding of the situation. And that is all she is trying to do. And what his defense team effectively are trying to do by understanding his understanding is ascertaining whether he understood that by carrying a knife, that is a crime, and by using it, it is a crime, but that also killing somebody means that they are dead. Now that sounds very obvious, that if you kill someone, they are dead. But that is from an adult perspective. Children which you are at the age of 13, do not have the same concept of death. And I've said this in another video. When my daughter Julia died at 16, a lot of her friends who were 16 did not understand that she would not be returning to school. They did not understand that she would not be returning their text messages. And they were 16. Some of them got it, some of them understood, but a lot of them just didn't get it. And a 13-year-old is even younger. I mean, your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25. So what she is trying to understand is did he want to kill her? Did he want to remove her from the planet? Was this a premeditated murder where he wanted the outcome to be that she no longer existed? And it was quite clear from that interview that whilst he had a lot of internalized rage and whilst he wanted to scare the shit out of her, he didn't quite understand the concept of death. It was kind of obvious, or at least this is the way that I took it, that he knew that he was in trouble and he tried to get out of the trouble. I don't know if you recall the scene where he admitted he had a knife. He said, I had a knife, I could have done anything, but I didn't. The other boys would have. So he doesn't understand. He did not understand that him having a knife in itself is terrifying. It doesn't matter what anyone else would have done. They're not the ones with the knife. He was. It's a crime and it's also terrifying. He didn't get that. Very clear he didn't understand that. He didn't have the understanding. And although he used that knife to hurt her, I don't think he wanted to kill her. I don't think he wanted her to be dead. And that is probably, she was obviously absolutely terrified of him and realizes he has all this rage and he definitely wants to overpower women, and she will most likely put that in her report. But it was also very clear that he probably thought he was in trouble and he'd probably get in a bit more trouble, get told off. He might have to stay in the unit for a little bit, but that at some point, probably soon, he would get to go home and go back to school. That was quite clear from what he was saying. He didn't quite understand that he has ruined the rest of his life, his family's life, and Katie is no longer on this planet, and that's going to affect all of her family and friends as well. So his understanding of the situation was not great, but it remains that he is probably quite a dangerous person. And so if she's a good psychologist in her report, she would probably add all of those things. However, she knows that she works for the defense. So I think that's where being a woman then comes into it, because the defense are wanting her to say that he didn't have an understanding, because they want, defense barrister wants to win. So all of the legal game of it will come into play. But yeah, his understanding was not that of an adult. I mean, he won't be tried as an adult anyway because he can't by law, but he didn't have an understanding of what he had done and what the impact on the rest of his life. But he did have that rage and he did have that need to overpower women and need to control. Me personally, I would want him assessed for and I hate to say this, I hate to say autism, because everybody says, oh, all the criminals are autistic. No, but he has a need for control, and that is something that I would want to have looked at. But because he wanted to gain control just in that interview. But there we go. I also am autistic, so I hate it that we label autism as something that means you're going to be violent. I'm not a violent person, but I do have a need for control. But I would definitely be looking at things like that.